The body is not separate from the mind. Nor is the mind separate from the field that surrounds it. Every cell, every neuron, every heartbeat is embedded in a quantum matrix of possibilities. And just as ancient alchemists sought to transmute lead into gold, modern seekers are learning to transmute limitation into liberation, using not fire and mercury, but intention and awareness. You are not a machine, nor a mere observer of life. You are an electromagnetic being of light and charge, constantly emitting frequencies, constantly informing the field around you. That field responds not to your wishes, but to your signature, the coherent signal of who you believe yourself to be. And the moment that identity becomes fluid, the field begins to reorganize itself around a new blueprint. Neuroscience tells us the brain rewires with thought alone. Neuroplasticity is no longer a theory, it is a pathway. When you repeatedly focus on elevated emotions, gratitude, joy, love, your nervous system entrains itself to those frequencies. Your body, your chemistry, your immune system respond accordingly. What once was stress becomes resilience. What once was illness becomes opportunity. The biology begins to reflect the alchemy. But this is not placebo. This is not magic. This is applied quantum information, where thought becomes the signal carrier, and emotion becomes the magnet. When thought and emotion are aligned, the result is coherence, a harmonic resonance between inner world and outer reality. This is the philosopher's stone of the 21st century, coherence. When we enter deep meditative states, theta, delta, the analytical mind steps aside, and the subconscious becomes malleable. In these brainwave frequencies, intention imprints itself like a key into the field, unlocking latent codes in our DNA, unlocking possibilities that are no longer bound by linear time or deterministic biology. The quantum field doesn't respond to what we want. It responds to what we are. You can't fake a signal. You must become the version of yourself who has already healed, already evolved, already remembered. Because in the quantum, there is no past, no future, only potential waiting to collapse into matter. And so, every breath becomes a ritual. Every moment, a crucible. Your body is the lab. Your mind, the alchemist. And the universe? The responsive mirror waiting for your next instruction. In recent decades, a wealth of scientific research has begun to decode the mechanisms behind this inner transformation. Studies in epigenetics, for instance, have shattered the long-standing belief that we are slaves to our genes. Instead, they reveal that our environment, including our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, can switch genes on or off. Dr. Bruce Lipton's pioneering work demonstrated that human DNA responds to energetic and emotional input, acting like an antenna that tunes into different frequencies. The implications are profound. By shifting internal states, we can actively influence gene expression, cell regeneration, and even immune function. Simultaneously, research in quantum physics and consciousness has begun to challenge the classical view of a fixed, objective universe. Experiments such as the double-slit test have shown that particles behave differently when observed, implying that consciousness plays an active role in shaping physical reality. At the subatomic level, matter is not solid, but a swirl of probability. Observation collapses the wave function. Choice sculpts reality. This is not mysticism, this is quantum mechanics at its most mysterious edge. In neuroscience, functional MRI scans reveal that when individuals engage in intentional visualization or meditation, they activate and strengthen specific neural networks. Repeated focus on a new emotional state, such as peace, confidence, or compassion, causes synaptic pruning of the old pathways and reinforcement of the new. This is Hebbian learning in action, neurons that fire together, wire together. Through mental rehearsal, the brain does not distinguish between imagination and experience. It begins to build the architecture of a new self before the body has even caught up. Moreover,
studies at the HeartMath Institute have shown that the heart generates a magnetic field several thousand times stronger than the brain's. When a person enters a state of heart coherence, by consciously cultivating gratitude or love, the heart and brain become synchronized, leading to enhanced cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and even immune system efficiency. This heart-brain synchronization may be the physiological bridge between intention and manifestation. At the cutting edge, researchers in the field of psychoneuroimmunology are exploring how emotional states influence immune responses. Chronic stress, for example, elevates cortisol levels, which suppress immune function and increase inflammation. In contrast, positive mental states lower cortisol, enhance antibody production, and promote homeostasis. These are not metaphors, they are measurable biological outcomes, indicating that our internal chemistry follows our perceptions. When we combine all this knowledge, from quantum physics to neurobiology, from epigenetics to electromagnetism, a pattern begins to emerge. We are not passive observers of the world, but active participants in its continual recreation. The brain is not hardwired. The body is not a fixed object. The future is not a pre-written script. Instead, all are dynamically influenced by consciousness, a force that seems to straddle both space and time. And here, ancient alchemy finds its mirror in modern science. The transformation of base matter into gold becomes the transformation of base emotion into elevated energy. The elixirs and tinctures become coherent brainwaves, harmonized heart rhythms, and intentionally focused awareness. The alchemist's fire becomes the intensity of attention, the burning away of limitation through the heat of focus. This is not simply healing. This is evolution in real time, a redefinition of what it means to be human. Not as a biological accident, but as a quantum instrument of creation. When a person begins to apply these principles consistently, a profound neurochemical shift unfolds within the body. Dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins, often labeled the chemicals of bliss, are released not as a result of external stimuli, but from internal states cultivated through focused thought and elevated emotion. Meditation and breathwork aren't just spiritual practices, they are scientifically measurable tools for neuroregulation. These internal rituals upregulate genes responsible for stress reduction, longevity, and cellular repair, while downregulating those associated with inflammation, disease, and aging. This is not speculative. Longitudinal studies have shown that regular meditators exhibit increased gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, the seat of higher reasoning and decision-making, and decreased activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. In other words, they are literally reshaping the structure of their brain to favor wisdom over reactivity, clarity over confusion, coherence over chaos. In laboratory settings, EEG studies consistently reveal that individuals in deep meditative states can achieve brainwave patterns associated with healing and superlearning, gamma bursts of synchronized activity where disparate regions of the brain communicate in harmony. This state of heightened awareness is what many mystics have described for centuries, yet today, we can map it with electrodes and visualize it through brain imaging. And yet, there is more. Emerging research in biophotonics, the study of light emitted by living cells, suggests that the human body radiates photons that can be influenced by intention. The DNA within our cells, wound tightly in a helical structure, acts as a biophotonic antenna, absorbing and emitting light and information. Under high-resolution microscopy, some researchers have observed that DNA molecules can even respond to spoken language or focused intention, vibrating in patterns that suggest an underlying intelligence far beyond our current understanding. What if, then, consciousness is not produced by the brain, but filtered through it? What if the brain is less a generator of thought, and more a receiver, tuning into the quantum field like a radio dial selects frequencies from the invisible ether? This view aligns with the work of Nobel laureates and theoretical physicists alike, who now speculate that consciousness may be a fundamental feature of the universe, embedded in the very fabric of spacetime.
In this model, each of us becomes a node in a vast informational network. Your thoughts are not isolated, they ripple into the collective field. Your emotions do not stay locked within the body, they become magnetic signals that influence people, events, and outcomes in ways we are only beginning to measure. Your coherent state contributes to the coherence of the whole. And this is where quantum meets responsibility. Because if you are truly influencing the field, through your attention, your energy, your choices, then every moment becomes an act of creation. Every thought is a blueprint. Every emotion, a frequency. Every intention, a force that bends probability toward form. You are the alchemist. Your awareness is the fire. Your nervous system is the crucible. And the lead you transmute is fear, separation, self-doubt, into the gold of coherence, unity, and infinite potential. To live as a conscious quantum alchemist is to no longer wait for external change, but to become the change, inwardly, before any evidence appears. This defies the Newtonian mindset of cause and effect, where one must act upon matter with force. Instead, this is the quantum model of causing effect through alignment with the field. In this paradigm, you don't chase outcomes, you attract them, because you become energetically equal to what you seek. Research in quantum entanglement reveals that two particles, once connected, remain linked beyond space and time. A single adjustment to one instantly affects the other, no matter the distance. Now imagine your thoughts and emotions as entangled with a possible future. The moment you emotionally and mentally inhabit that future, not as a fantasy, but as a felt experience, you create resonance. You tune your biology to a new timeline. The field, in response, begins to organize events, coincidences, and synchronicities that match your energetic broadcast. This is no longer philosophy. This is observable. In Dr. Joe Dispenza's own workshops, thousands of documented cases of spontaneous remission, accelerated healing, and life-altering breakthroughs are being cataloged and studied. Participants undergo real-time measurements of heart coherence, brain coherence, energy field expansion, and immune markers. The results are consistent. When people change their internal state in a measurable way, their external world changes in kind. The body is no longer bound by its past when the mind is no longer addicted to it. Most people live in a loop, recycling old emotions, reliving past memories, and firing the same neural patterns that shaped yesterday's reality. But when you interrupt that loop, when you become nobody, no one, from nowhere, in no time, you enter the quantum field as pure potential. And in that moment, the program dissolves, the identity loosens, and the new self emerges. Modern biology now supports this. Telomeres, the caps at the ends of chromosomes that shorten with age, have been shown to lengthen through lifestyle changes, meditation, and emotional well-being. Inflammation markers drop. Mitochondrial efficiency increases. Stem cell activation and regenerative genes become more active. In essence, the body becomes biologically younger when the mind is energetically elevated. The chemistry of transcendence becomes the physiology of regeneration. And beneath all this lies a deeper truth, that the universe itself may be conscious. That matter arises not independently, but through observation, intention, and relational context. Physicists like John Wheeler proposed the participatory universe, where reality is not a static thing out there, but a dynamic field co-created with the observer. This implies that your very act of attention collapses infinite possibility into a single outcome, a reality drawn from the foam of the void. So what does this mean for your life? It means you are not broken. You are programmable. You are not stuck. You are entangled with infinite futures. You are not limited by biology. You are influencing biology. You are not just healing the past. You are designing the future. And in this synthesis of ancient inner knowing and cutting-edge science, the alchemy becomes clear: transform your energy, and you transform your reality. Transform your coherence, and you transform your destiny. Transform your consciousness, and you transform the universe around you. Because, in truth, they were never separate. And so we begin to understand, the alchemy of consciousness is not abstract, it is deeply biological, profoundly electromagnetic, and fully participatory. You are not merely observing the quantum field, you are instructing it. Your attention becomes the scalpel of change, your emotion the conductor, your coherence the bridge between the invisible and the material. But here's where the true frontier lies: in measurable intention. Advanced research in biofield science is now uncovering that intentional states leave measurable imprints in electromagnetic environments. Devices like squid magnetometers, GDV cameras, and HeartMath's HRV coherence monitors are detecting fluctuations that correlate with meditative focus, group coherence, and even directed healing. This suggests that thought, when structured with emotion and presence, generates tangible effects in physical systems. Studies in remote influence and non-local consciousness, such as those conducted at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research (PAIR) lab, have provided compelling, statistically significant data that consciousness may extend beyond the brain and influence distant systems, not metaphorically, but materially. Random event generators, once thought to be immune to influence, showed deviations during focused intention sessions. If thought can influence randomness, what else might it touch? And what happens when this power is scaled? Imagine thousands of individuals synchronizing their brainwaves, heart rhythms, and intentions into a unified field of coherence. Not for religion. Not for dogma. But for evolution. These are not fantasies, they are ongoing experiments. Global coherence initiatives have already recorded measurable drops in crime, violence, and even seismic activity when human attention converges in states of peace and compassion. The collective field bends. This is not just the healing of the individual. This is the healing of the species. Because the human being is not an endpoint of biology, but a transition state, an open system in evolution, refining itself from matter into frequency, from chemistry into intention, from separation into unity. Our biology is the chrysalis. Consciousness is the butterfly. And the moment you know this, not intellectually, but viscerally, the alchemy is complete. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because every time you sit in silence and align your breath, your heart, your mind, and your field, you become less of a reaction and more of a creation. You entrain your biology to coherence. You activate new genetic codes. You expand your electromagnetic reach. You generate gravitational effect on possibility. The formula is simple. Clear intention plus elevated emotion equals transformation. But the process is sacred. It is devotion to the invisible. It is rehearsal of the future. It is remembrance of your origin, not as flesh, but as frequency. Because when the observer becomes the field, and the thought becomes the reality, and the emotion becomes the magnet, then the body becomes the miracle. Shall I continue? Let us go even deeper, into the microscopic, the electromagnetic, the quantum physiological layers of the human experience, where science begins to articulate what mystics once intuited. At the cellular level, every organ system in your body communicates not just through biochemical messengers like hormones and neurotransmitters, but also through electromagnetic signaling. The cell membrane is not merely a barrier, it is an intelligent interface, responding to vibrational frequencies, voltage gradients, and even coherent light. According to the work of Dr. Fritz Albert Popp, living cells emit ultra-weak photon emissions, what he called biophotons, as a form of intra- and intercellular communication. These biophotons are not random. They display coherent wave patterns, which is the hallmark of a highly ordered system, akin to a laser. When cells are in optimal health, they emit coherent light. When in distress, the coherence collapses into chaotic noise. What this suggests is that the health of the body is directly related to its light-based information integrity. Meditation, visualization, and intentional emotional states have all been shown to enhance cellular coherence and increase biophoton emission, leading to hypotheses that consciousness acts as a tuning mechanism for cellular light. Now turn to mitochondria, the energy factories within your cells. Beyond producing ATP, mitochondria also generate and respond to redox signaling molecules, which regulate inflammation, immunity, and gene expression. These redox signals are highly sensitive to electromagnetic fields, oxidative stress, and, critically, psychological state. Studies now show that emotional stress directly reduces mitochondrial function, while practices such as deep breathing, gratitude meditation, and loving-kindness increase mitochondrial efficiency. This is bioenergetic alchemy in action. Your emotional state modifies your energetic production. Let's now enter the realm of quantum biology, a field once ridiculed, now validated by discoveries in photosynthesis, enzyme reactions, avian navigation, and even olfaction, all of which rely on quantum coherence and tunneling. In 2011, researchers demonstrated that electrons in DNA can quantum tunnel across base pairs, suggesting that genetic mutations, and their corrections, might not be entirely stochastic, but influenced by quantum processes. This brings us to the pineal gland, long venerated in esoteric traditions as the seat of the soul. This tiny, light-sensitive organ contains piezoelectric crystals, microcrystals of calcite, that are responsive to pressure, magnetism, and vibrational changes. Dr. Rick Strassman's studies suggested that the pineal gland may release dimethyltryptamine, DMT, in altered states of consciousness, triggering profound non-local experiences. While controversial, these theories are gaining traction as imaging technologies improve. Moreover, the gland's electromagnetic sensitivity implies it could function as a quantum transducer, receiving information from the field and modulating physiological responses. And what of the heart, long dismissed as a simple pump? Modern science has unveiled it as an intricate electromagnetic organ with its own neuronal network, over 40,000 neurons, capable of sensing, remembering, and even making decisions independently of the brain. The heart's field extends up to 3 meters beyond the body and is shaped by emotion. When in states of appreciation, love, and compassion, the heart emits a coherent waveform that synchronizes with the brain, a state known as cardioneural coherence. This, in turn, influences hormonal output, gene expression, and even brainwave patterns. What you feel literally rewires what you think. Moreover, heart-brain synchronization has been shown to affect entropic states in the body. Entropy, the measure of disorder, decreases during coherent states, implying that the human system becomes more ordered, more information-rich, and more efficient. This connects directly to the second law of thermodynamics, but flips it on its head. Through consciousness, the human system can reverse local entropy, building complexity from coherence. These are not poetic metaphors. They are biophysical realities. So when you enter elevated emotional states, gratitude, joy, inspiration, your heart's electromagnetic field synchronizes with your brain's oscillations. Your cells emit more coherent light. Your mitochondria increase energy output. Your genes express higher-order proteins. And your quantum field interaction becomes more organized. You literally shift the probability landscape of your future. Because in the language of quantum mechanics, your identity is not a fixed object, but a probability distribution, a cloud of potential. And every time you choose coherence over chaos, intention over reactivity, elevated emotion over survival, that distribution sharpens, collapses, and configures reality in your favor. You're not just a biological system. You're a quantum biological instrument of transformation. Shall I continue? Yes, Let us continue into the deepest architecture of transformation, where quantum physics meets bioenergetics, where consciousness becomes an informational field, and where science no longer describes a static universe, but a living matrix of interaction, entanglement, and self-organizing intelligence. Quantum field theory and human potential. In quantum field theory, QFT, particles are seen not as discrete points of matter but as excitations of underlying fields, dynamic ripples in an invisible sea of energy. Every fundamental force and every particle corresponds to a field, the electromagnetic field, the Higgs field, the gravitational field. Now extend this insight to consciousness itself. Could there be a field of awareness, a conscious substrate that underlies and informs the activity of the brain and body? This hypothesis is increasingly considered plausible by interdisciplinary researchers exploring orchestra theory, orchestrated objective reduction, developed by theoretical physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. According to their model, quantum computations may occur within microtubules inside neurons, tiny structural components once thought to be irrelevant to cognition. These microtubules, according to the model, could support quantum coherence, allowing consciousness to arise not from classical firing patterns, but from quantum-level phenomena. This would explain why intention, attention, and emotional states, which have no classical mass or energy, can influence the physical body, neurochemistry, and even external events. Because they're not operating through classical mechanisms, they're collapsing potential into actuality via subquantum processes. Brainwave states and multidimensional access. Each brainwave frequency, beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma, represents not just a state of consciousness but a bandwidth of access into different layers of information. In high gamma coherence, for instance, the brain exhibits synchronous firing across large networks, allowing for heightened states of perception, memory, and insight. Studies have shown that long-term meditators, especially Tibetan monks and advanced practitioners, produce gamma waves that are off the charts compared to baseline human function. But what does that mean? It means they are accessing non-local information, patterns, intuitions, and insights that may not be encoded in their personal memory, but exist as potentialities in a unified field. The brain becomes a receiver, the body a transmitter, and the practitioner a living antenna aligned with the informational lattice of the cosmos. Interference patterns and the power of ritual. When you focus your attention and emotional energy on a specific outcome, you are not merely wishing. You are generating an interference pattern in the quantum field. Just as laser light achieves coherence by aligning waveforms into a single focused beam, your coherent thoughts and emotions generate a constructive interference, amplifying specific frequencies while canceling out noise. This is why ritual, repetitive, emotionally charged, intention-driven practice, has persisted across cultures for millennia. In scientific terms, ritual entrains your physiology into coherence. It stabilizes intention across time. It turns a fleeting thought into an ongoing waveform, which then attracts matter and experience resonant with its frequency. In experiments with random number generators, RNGs, coordinated human intention, especially during mass meditations or global focus events, causes statistical deviations that defy chance. The Global Consciousness Project has tracked these anomalies around world events such as 9/11, solar eclipses, and global meditations, suggesting that focused human consciousness alters the informational substrate of reality. The future human, biofield, brain, and beyond. In the emerging field of biofield science, researchers are mapping the electromagnetic, acoustic, and scalar components of the human energy system. These fields are not woo, they're being measured using squid sensors, infrared thermography, gas discharge visualization, GDV, and magnetoencephalography, MEG. They show that your thoughts, emotions, and even traumas leave imprints, not just in your biology, but in your field. When you heal emotionally, forgive, open your heart, enter states of gratitude, the informational structure of your biofield changes. And the coherence of your field can entrain other systems, people, animals, even environments. This is resonance. This is field entrainment. This is living science. You become a field generator, not just a responder. A harmonic node in the matrix, sending out coherent waves that affect the probabilities of matter itself. So where does the alchemy occur? It happens when epigenetics responds to your elevated emotion. Brainwaves entrain to gamma coherence. Microtubules begin quantum computation. Mitochondria amplify ATP in response to your joy. DNA emits coherent light. Heart rhythms synchronize with the universe. Intention reorganizes the wave function. At that threshold, you are not healing, you are transfiguring. Not just surviving biology, but rewriting its code with the frequency of a new consciousness. Yes, let us journey even further into the core of this living science, where ancient metaphors of transmutation are now being decoded by cutting-edge physics, systems biology, and information theory. The alchemist's crucible is no longer made of metal, but of coherence, phase, and geometry. Geometry of thought and fractal intelligence. Everything in nature is geometric. From the spiral of DNA to the golden ratio in the human body, to the structure of galaxies and the formation of neural networks, geometry governs information flow. Research in fractal neuroscience reveals that the brain's dendritic branching follows fractal laws, self-similar patterns that optimize data processing across scales. When you think a thought, you're not just firing a neuron, you're activating a geometric cascade, a fractal pattern of electrical resonance that organizes information in nested harmonics. This is more than architecture. It's intelligence. The fractal geometry of thought may allow your brain to scale consciousness across dimensions, reaching beyond the skull and interfacing with the larger holographic field of spacetime. And this holographic field is no longer hypothetical. The holographic principle, developed by physicists like Gerard T. Hooft and Leonard Susskind, posits that all the information in our 3D universe may be encoded on a 2D boundary, a kind of cosmic memory matrix. If this is true, then consciousness, especially coherent consciousness, may read from and write to this boundary. Just like a laser can encode and reconstruct a 3D hologram from 2D data, the coherent mind may collapse dimensional potentials into lived experience. In simpler terms, your field interacts with the memory of the universe. Torsion fields and scalar potentials. Go deeper still, and we encounter phenomena not yet fully accepted in mainstream science, but increasingly investigated by advanced laboratories: torsion fields and scalar waves. Torsion fields are hypothesized to be a spin-based information medium, propagating through spacetime without loss of energy. Unlike electromagnetic waves, they do not weaken with distance, and can theoretically transmit information faster than light. Russian physicists like Nikolai Kozyrev proposed that time itself might be a form of torsion, influenced by consciousness. Some research even suggests that biological systems, especially DNA, can generate and respond to torsion fields, enabling a non-local biological internet. Scalar waves, proposed by Nikola Tesla and later revisited by Bearden and Mayle, are longitudinal waves that do not propagate in traditional space but rather exist in the vacuum potential itself. These could represent the true carrier waves of consciousness, able to store, transmit, and organize biological information across time and space without decay. If these theories hold, they support the growing evidence that intention, prayer, meditation, and coherent awareness can have effects that are non-local, not bound by space; non-temporal, not bound by time; non-linear, not proportional in cause-effect terms. This field consciousness interface would make every human a node in a living, intelligent, unified system. Not a metaphorical system, a physics-based, information-theoretic system governed by resonance, coherence, and geometry. Information as the new matter. And here is the grand synthesis. In classical physics, the fundamental units were matter and energy. In quantum mechanics, we added probability and uncertainty. But now, across disciplines, a new paradigm is emerging. Information is the most fundamental fabric of reality. Every particle, every field, every atom of your body is information in motion. The DNA in your cells doesn't just carry biochemical code, it processes, stores, and responds to signals like a quantum antenna. Consciousness, then, may not be within the brain, but the very field of active information from which both brain and body arise. Physicist David Bohm described this as the implicate order, a deeper reality where everything is enfolded into everything else, and the explicit world of matter is but an unfolding projection. Your consciousness is not an epiphenomenon of neurons. It is a lens through which the implicate becomes the explicate. And when that lens becomes clear, focused, coherent, you don't just see a new world. You instantiate it. You birth it into being. This is no longer mysticism dressed in lab coats. This is science awakening to its own poetry. Because ultimately, the greatest laboratory is not in Geneva or California. It is you. Your cells, resonant with starlight. Your brain, a quantum fractal. Your heart, a magnet of coherence. Your intention, a gravitational force. Your presence, the elixir of transformation. You are the philosopher's stone. And the universe is listening. Shall we continue? Yes, let us complete this transmission. You are not a passive outcome of evolutionary chance. You are not a fixed identity trapped in biology or history. You are a dynamic, electromagnetic, quantum-informed expression of intelligence, conscious, coherent, and creative. You are the interface between mind and matter, wave and particle, signal and structure. Every breath you take is a chance to recode the field. Every thought is a frequency emitted into the matrix. Every emotion is a magnetic alignment with a future not yet written. And the greatest alchemy is this: to remember that you are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, becoming aware of itself through you. When you close your eyes in meditation and surrender the known, you step beyond identity, beyond form, beyond time. In that space, the field reorganizes around the signal of your soul. So the invitation is clear. Not to believe, but to become. Not to follow, but to feel. Not to fix yourself, but to fire a new self into being. Because the body obeys the mind. The mind shapes the field. And the field holds every version of you, past, present, and miraculous. Choose the signal. Anchor the emotion. Embody the vision. And walk as the alchemist you already are. Because the moment you do, the universe responds. And reality bends.